Hello, hello, and welcome to Self Love Lunch Break with me, Diana, your sacred self love coach. And welcome to part three of the series, Awake in August. Let's get work in August, right? Awake and alert in the month of August. Me and my alliteration, I love it. And I was thinking about August and thinking about what I wanted to share and what I've been experiencing and working with everyone that I work with. And living in awareness, living truly awake and aware and present and conscious by choice every single day. That is top of mind for me at the moment and so many people. And so awake in August is what I came up with. And as you may remember, part one was the introduction. So really just connecting with yourself and then taking it deeper and getting connected with your physical being. So connecting with your body, who you are, taking time out to get to know your body, get to know what your body's needs are, what works for you, what doesn't work for you on a physical level, and curating and caring for your physical body. Because as we were reminded by one of the visitors on that day, this body, this is the only body that we'll ever have. So looking after it, caring for it, getting to know it and how to nourish it the best is important for having a full and fulfilling life. Then we looked at the different parts of what I call our different beings. Hello, Olga, my darling, and I'm so glad that you're here. Taking time out to get to know your body. Yes, that's what we discussed last week. And then going from physical, so the different bodies that I always talk about is your physical body, your emotional body, your mental body, and your spiritual body. And what I've done today, instead of moving from physical to emotional, I've actually parked emotional for later this week. We'll talk about that on Thursday. And today I want to talk about your mental body, your mind. It's so, so very important. And Olga, it's so lovely to have you here. You are such a good person to talk to when it comes to mind, the power of the mind, mindset, and what it does for us. So what I titled today's talk is, or you might have seen in the blurbs that I put out, your mind is your magic wand. It really, really is. What we think about is what we end up living. What we think about is how we create our reality and our experiences. So at the title of today's talk, mentor your mind, mentor your own mind. How exciting is that? And how valid? Because if you think about it, if our mind is our want, and it really, really is, and then the quality of your thoughts will decide the quality of your experience in life. So, of course, anything important deserves time, deserves attention, deserves direction. And for any person that wants to grow, a beautiful place to go is a mentor. We look to our mentors to inspire us, to lead us forward. So what better way for you, the true essence of who you are, the director of your physical body, the director of your mind, the owner of your emotions, the true essence of who you are, what better person to mentor your mind than you? Yes, I'm all for reaching out for support, turning to people who've been down the road before us for support. But at the end of the day, we have to be accountable to ourselves. And we have to take that accountability fully, take it on board. And that's what I call mentoring your own mind. So the mind is really the highest body of our physical. So there's the physical body that moves, the muscles, the body, the actual body that we live in, the emotional body, which is all our emotions and our feelings. And there is the mind, which is our thoughts, our intelligence. And that is the closest thing to spirit that we have in the physical is our mind. So it's a very, very important part of who we are to make sure that we are mentoring ourselves properly and that we are taking accountability, that we are being fully truthful to what it is we say we want, who it is we say we want to be, and living according to the ethics and values that we subscribe to. And the way to do that is to mentor our own mindset, to make sure that our mindset is where it needs to be, to make sure that our thoughts are guiding us in the right direction. Because if you think about this as an example, if you look at these super successful achievers and you think, oh, one day I'm going to be like that, and you keep thinking negative thoughts, you keep thinking victim thinking, you keep thinking self-pity thoughts, the bottom line is, the short and easy answer is, you're not going to get where you dream of going. That's just the short answer. It is so important to model the type of thinking of where you want to go. So look at what you want to achieve for yourself. Look at where you want to be, who you want to be, and how you want to be in life, and model the thinking that would get you there. So it's definitely not going to be victim thinking. It's definitely not going to be self-pity thinking. It's definitely not going to be woe is me, everything always goes wrong for me thinking. You're going to have to discipline that mind of yours, discipline those thoughts, and keep aligning your thoughts and your mindset with where it is that you want to go. I call this mind magic. And I just want to make it very clear that whenever I talk about these things, and I know I said this on last week and I'll just keep saying it, is that whenever I talk about these are things that I've experienced. These are experiences that I've grown from. These are things that I've learned about cognitively with things that I've actually studied and that I've learned about experientially. So this is not me sitting on a seat of judgment and dishing out this you must do. This is me knowing because I've walked this walk. I've experienced this. I've tried both ways. We all suffer from victim mentality. It's how our culture seems to be built these days. It's so natural to want to blame the circumstances, blame the person, blame the situation. But at the end of the day, the only person that can affect change in my life is me. And my most powerful tool for that at any given moment is my mind. Absolutely. I've experienced it time and time again, and I know you have too. And everyone that I work with has experienced it. So work with me here. We need to take accountability for our thinking, and from our thinking come our actions and our feelings. So although very true, my dear, we can become who we want to be by thinking the way that new persona would think and behave. Exactly, exactly. Modeling is so powerful. Olga, you and I both know this. So you take the person that you want to be, the ideal of the life that you want to be. Who would be in that life? What would that, in my case, what would that Diana look like? How would she be thinking? What would she be doing? And that's what you start modeling. And that's what I call mentoring your own mindset. So once you start, the way to start, let's backtrack though, is again, self-knowledge is key. So as with, I said this with the physical body last week, and I'm saying it again with the mind this week. The greatest power you have is knowledge. As soon as you know something, if you think of a hunter in the ancient times, hunters had to hunt in order to eat. How would they hunt? They wouldn't just kind of run out into the plains, like brandishing their weapon above their head and go, "Come, buffalo, rawr, I need to eat, I'm hungry." No, they would watch the buffalo. How does the buffalo behave? Where does the buffalo go? When is the buffalo not paying attention? How will I be able to track the buffalo so that I can eat? For example, the gatherer, for those of you who don't eat animals, that's fine. But in ancient times, or even now, if you have to gather food, you're not going to look for a potato up in the top of a tree. You're going to look for a potato in the ground. You'll look for nuts in a tree or fruit in a tree. Some fruit grow on vines. So you know what I'm saying? You need to know your target. And so the first step in mastering your own mind magic, know yourself, know your mind. And that can be really hard sometimes because just as we did last week with the mirror work, when you actually first face up to some of the ways that you think and realize that you've been tripping yourself up time and time again, that can be hardcore. That can be a jagged pill to swallow. Thanks, Alanis Morissette, for those lyrics. But that can really be a jagged pill to swallow. When you realize, for example, I had a realization, and for years I've spoken to people who are working with, I've dealt with victim mentality. We all have it at some point in our life. We might be small children when something happens and we hurt ourselves and we want to blame the thing that we tripped over, whereas the actual fact is we tripped over it, right? But that victim, that like, poor me, this is terrible. This thing that happened is just horrible. So that is natural. However, recently I was dealing with a situation in my life and digging deep into my mentality, digging deep into my mindset. How am I thinking? How is this affecting where I'm at and what I'm experiencing? And having a realization that there was a deeper level of victim thinking that I hadn't even picked up within my own mindset. That was a shock. That was really like somebody threw a bucket of ice cold water in my face. I was just like, and yeah, realizing that and coming to terms with that was the very first step. And so often in that first step of self-knowledge, that first step of just acknowledging the truth of what is there, that's when the biggest shift can happen. Because it's in that moment that the layer of the onion peels away, or the scales of your eyes fall away, and you can see the pattern. And it's in seeing the pattern that you can then break the pattern or change the pattern. And it can be the slightest shift that can change a pattern. Who's saying hello? Naresh. Hello, hello, and welcome. Thank you for being here. I see Hans is here. It's good to see you guys. Olga, thank you all for being here. I'd love you to tell me where you are from in the comments. Olga, I'm never sure where you are at the moment because of all your wonderful travels. Naresh, Hans, let me know where you are. I'll try and send a wave on Instagram. Oh, I'm not very good at that, but I'll get better. So self-knowledge, getting to really know your thoughts, watching yourself, your stories, getting to know your stories. Where did that story come from? The realization I had earlier this year was a powerful one. And I think I've spoken about it before in one of my lives, but it was a realization of this victimhood and realizing where the story had come from and that it wasn't actually even my story, that I picked it up in childhood and I'd literally been working with it or nurturing it, walking around my life with it for all these years. Not even realizing that it was there, but it was kind of in the background and it was affecting my behavior because it was in my mindset. It was part of my story about myself, realizing that it wasn't even my story. The other thing is getting to know your triggers. So by spending time watching your thoughts, seeing how things play out and what your thinking had to do with it, you'll get to know what does trigger you, what situations trigger that, and why do they trigger it. Again, that'll uncover parts of your story. The key here, the very big key, and this can be a challenge for a lot of people. We are very emotional beings. Human beings are made with emotion. So often we spend our lives, and I'm going to talk about this at length on Thursday because Thursday is all about emotional and being empowered with your emotions. But when dealing with your mindset and when looking at your mindset, when looking at your stories and your patterns and your triggers, it is so important to remove your emotion. So step back and watch yourself and your thinking and your stories and your patterns as if you're just looking at information. So you're basically a scientist in the laboratory. What does the scientist do when he does an experiment? He puts all the things together. Hello, Juanita. Grey and wet London. Yes, it's grey and wet up here in Louth as well. We're only 3 hours away, but I think this grey wetness is everywhere. It abounds in England. Olga, wherever you are, enjoy it because I'm sure you're in a little bit of a different climate at the moment. Hans, I think you're with us in the grey wet. Oh, you're in Chichester. How lovely. Tell us about the weather there. But yes, back to looking at your mindset. So it is very, very key to watch your mindset, your patterns, your stories without emotion, as if you're in the laboratory doing an experiment. So a scientist will go into the laboratory super excited. He's got an idea. He's going to put that chemical with that chemical and he thinks he'll get this result. However, he knows that he thinks he'll get the result. He might not. He might get a different result. And what he needs to do is observe. And if you remember at school, when we do these things, I mean, if you are a scientist, then it'll be part of your life. And if you're not, then it was probably last at school, which it was for me. We had to observe. We had to make notes. What are we looking for? That reaction. What happened when I did that? And it's the same when looking at your mindset. What happened when I did that? Or backtracking from a set of circumstances or a result. So looking at something that happened that you did or didn't like. Usually the didn't like is the best route to unpacking mindset stuff. So looking at a thing that happened that you didn't like and then going back, well, what were we talking about? Or what was going on? What was I thinking? What was my thinking like when I responded that way? When that happened, where was my mindset? How was it? And this is all in the self-knowledge. And I'm using so many words. And you're not necessarily going to do all of this in every moment. You'll get to a place where you start to, though, where you start becoming so aware that you can literally observe yourself in every interaction. And there is such power in that. I just want to see what Juanita says. And emotions are not the enemy. Exactly. We are often taught to ignore, just overcome them. I love my emotions. Thanks, Juanita, for reminding me to come back to that point. Yes. So we taught in life we mask our emotions, mask them, put them away, ignore them. However, when it comes to anything that's to do with ourselves, we can be very emotional. So we can then look at our laboratory experiment, as the analogy is, but we look at it from a skewed perspective because we're feeling defensive. We're feeling like we need to protect ourselves. We're feeling like there must be something that we can blame or somebody. So that's what I mean when I say when you're studying your own mindset and looking at your own patterns and your own stories, in that scenario, just park the emotions for a bit, set them to one side so that you can look at your stories with a very, very objective perspective. And we will get to emotions on Thursday, Juanita. Thank you for that reminder and bringing me back because I think I was lost down a little path there. But yes, I wanted to say that. So I'm encouraging you to put them to one side when you're studying your own mindset, when you're unpacking your own thinking and your own stories and patterns, but not to ignore them, not to put them away. They are a very, very important signaling system that we have, an amazing one. So then what you can do is, so now you've seen your story. You might have seen your pattern. You've looked at a situation that happened, and you've looked at it objectively, and you go, oh wow, okay, so that's what's going on here. Like what happened with me earlier in the year, seeing that pattern, seeing myself with that deeper level of I, I hate even admitting it, but victim thinking. Okay, and and now you can observe it, and now the next step is crucial. Then you make a decision based on the facts. So just as the scientist would then make a decision based on the result of his experiment, this is when we get to make a decision and go, okay, so those are the facts. This is what I've observed. I've observed it more than once. I'm not just making a rash decision here. I've observed myself in different situations with triggers that might have looked slightly different, but they were actually creating the same results. I've looked at my behavior, I've looked at the thinking that I was using at the time, and based on all of these factors, I'm now making a decision that I don't want that anymore. And this is where we come into modeling. So now you've picked your person, your life, your picture of your life, the way you want to be, the persona that you see for yourself, the best self that you can be, living the best life that you can live. And now you get to make that decision. Okay, so how would that person behave? How would that version of me behave? And then you choose that. You choose that mindset. How does this person think? Okay? And from there you commit. Commit to the decision. Make a commitment to yourself. And then every time it comes up, because then it will, because life is amazing this way. Because life checks us all the time. Life is like, are you sure? Are you sure about that? You sure you want this winner mindset? Here's the situation. See how it works for you. And believe it or not, we are part of that. The law of attraction means that we attract and we manifest what we want and what we need. And whether you like to admit it or not, our souls, our true essence, our higher selves, we want growth. We want to know ourselves. We want to be that best self, living that best life. And so we will attract situations that test the commitment and the decision. Hello, Louise. Welcome, welcome. And thank you for being here. And you're welcome. Thank you for listening. And so these situations will come up that test that commitment to that decision. And life will throw you into a situation and go, okay, how does this work for you? How's your mindset? Are you choosing that winner mindset? Are you stepping up? Are you going to think the way that your ideal self thinks? Are you going to think the way that will get you into your best life and being your best self? And so don't be discouraged when that happens. Don't be discouraged when sometimes that old pattern thinking comes in, because it will. It will. But what happens is once you've made that decision and you've committed to yourself, you will start to see it clearer, and you'll start to see it in the moment. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, you won't just see it in hindsight. You'll see it in the moment. And you'll catch yourself and you'll be like, oh God, am I really saying that? And you can correct. Self-correction in the moment is so possible. And that's the exciting part, because then you can literally, if you might be in a conversation with somebody else, or you might be reacting in the traffic, or you might be out shopping and reacting to a situation in the store, and you can stop yourself right there and shift mindset, shift gear in your mind, and take a different angle. It is possible. Sometimes there might be too much momentum and you're kind of rolling down the hill, and that's also okay. It's okay, and at the end of the day, let it go, but acknowledge what you saw. Acknowledge what you saw, and then practice. Just keep practicing. I know I say this all the time, but on every level, when it comes to our physical body, when it comes to our heart, our emotional body, and when it comes to our mindset, it's about practice. Practice what you want to be. Practice what you want to create. Practice what you want to see in your own life. Be what you want to see. Okay? So this is a big one for me. And this is what I call, this is my definition of integrity. For me, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't put my phone on silent, and I'm using my phone for Instagram. Sorry, Instagrammers. Sorry, everyone else, for the ringing. What a lovely sound. Little interjection. So my definition of integrity is when what we think, what we feel, and what we do are all in alignment. And what are they in alignment with? With the true essence of who we are. So that ideal version that you have of yourself, living in that ideal version of the life that you want for yourself, when everything is in alignment with that. So your thoughts, your actions, and your feelings need to be in alignment with each other and with that picture that you have for yourself. And that might sound like a tall order, but it's actually not. Once you start making that commitment to yourself on every level, the alignment just seems to happen. You'll find yourself just falling into alignment. Suddenly, and it's like I spoke about last week, suddenly when it comes to your physicality, you'll be eating the things that you've heard from your body that your body wants. You'll be doing physical exercise that you've heard from your body that is good for your body, that works for your physical health. You'll be thinking thoughts that empower you. You'll be thinking thoughts that take you that one step further, that excite you, that get your creativity going. And you'll be feeling feelings that feel good. And you'll be moving forward because you've chosen integrity, because you've chosen yourself, because you are worth it. And this is real self-love. Hello, Tevin, and thank you so much for being here. Tevin says, so challenging to act like the person we aim to be when emotions are high. Exactly. I guess the key is preparation before we get triggered. Absolutely, Tevin, and that's what I mean when I say practice. So it's absolutely about practicing and getting used to it. And the big part is also self-forgiveness. So self-forgiveness when we are triggered and we haven't acted in complete alignment with the person that we want to be. And just say, okay, so that wasn't it. That's not what it looks like. But I see it. I see where I went wrong. And I'm going to try again tomorrow. Tomorrow's a new day. I get a new chance. And I get a new chance to step into this version of me that I want to be. And that's integrity. Because your intention is in place and you're willing to see where you haven't met up with that expectation that you created for yourself. And this is healthy expectation, okay? So for me, that's the magic, is that when you're living in integrity. And then, so the last thing I want to give you is that, so we've covered these 4 steps. So it's about knowing yourself. It's about just parking the emotion when you're looking at the actual facts and you're figuring it out. It's about making a decision based on the results that you see, based on the reality, based on those facts. And then it's about committing to that decision. So making a real commitment to yourself. And that's alignment. That's integrity. And here are some easy ways to do it. So what I really wanted to share with you is 2 really easy ways. And the first one is review your day each day. Because it's great to hear this stuff. And in theory, so it's like this wonderful theory. And it's like, yes, I want to do that. That sounds great. Di really thought about this. And she's put these points together. I want to be this person. And then tomorrow's tomorrow and you carry on as normal. And then you're like, oh, that was a good thing she was saying. How do I do that? So step one, review your day at the end of every day. You can do this with a journal. You can do it in a note on your phone. You can do it on anything. But do write something down or record your own voice speaking. But so look at your day. Look at the situations that came up for you in your day. Look at who you were in key situations, and you'll find amazingly that when you sit down with yourself just to review your day, because you might think, what am I going to think about the whole 24 hours? No, you'll be amazed when you sit down with yourself to review your day, specific scenarios will pop up. And those scenarios will pop up because there's something for you to see there. So think about those scenarios. Look at how was I? What triggered me? What stories were running through my head? How was my mindset working for me in that situation? What was my thinking about? And then what was my even deeper thinking? What was going on deeper than the obvious that was on the surface? So really just review your day. Um, and then you can look at how can I shift, even if it's ever so slightly, it could be the slightest shift tomorrow. So let's say I have a similar scenario come up tomorrow. How can I be more of the person that I want myself to be tomorrow if a similar situation comes up? So then you start modeling and in advance modeling thinking for yourself though, because you're taking your own situation that you've been in. You're taking a situation that you may well find yourself in the next day or the next day and model, how will I think? How will that thinking affect how I behave? What will I say? What will I do differently than I did today? So that's the first thing. And then another very powerful thing, and I always come back to this, is meditation. This is a really, really simple meditation. And I know different gurus and teachers all over the world have different names for it, and it's basically a focus meditation. And so it's about focusing on one thing and learning to really direct your mind into the silence, into the stillness, but by focusing on one thing. And the way that I do it, and I learned this from a Bob Proctor conference that myself and a whole bunch of friends did early last year, and then we carried on practicing throughout the year, and it's been amazing. Still today, we get together and meet and discuss the concepts, and yeah, it's been amazing the impact it's had on our lives. So what we did is we literally focus on a dot on the wall and start out with 3 minutes. It seems really short. When you're focusing on a dot on the wall, it'll seem really long if you haven't done it before initially. And then suddenly one day, 3 minutes will go like that. And you will literally have focused on the spot on the wall for 3 full minutes without thinking about anything else. And this is really about training your mind. Your mind, as I said at the beginning, your mind is your magic wand. And think about Harry Potter and Hermione and all of their friends in the Harry Potter stories when they first went to the School of Magic. I can't remember all the name. And they didn't know how to use their wands. Their wands used them. And that is such an analogy for our minds and our mindsets, is that if we're not training our own minds to use our mind as a magic wand to create the life we want, then our minds will be using us. Bottom line. Because since we were born, up until today, however old you are, you have received conditioning from the outside and from experiences that you've had. And our brains are built, they're wired to protect us, to keep us safe, which doesn't always mean expansion and growth and going to get that beautiful life story that you want for yourself. It often just means staying small and quiet in a dark corner because that will be safer. So don't let your mind use you. Train your mind, focus your mind, learn to use your own magic wand to create the life that you want. So those 2 things. The one is review your day every day at the end of the day. Go through it, check where your mindset was, check how your thinking was, and how did it affect your behavior. And number 2, the focus meditation. Just for 3 minutes every day, focus on one thing. Spot on the wall is the easiest, and most walls in the world will have a funny mark somewhere, or a lump, or a bump. So find a spot on the wall and focus. And on YouTube, there are some lovely little short clips of meditation music. So for some people, silence is the way to start. For other people, a little bit of background music helps. It also works as a nice timer if you don't want to set an actual timer that beeps at the end. But yeah, try and go for 3 minutes of focusing on one thing. Those are two very powerful tools. I really, really hope that they help you. And I hope that all the stuff that I shared with you today goes a long way to support you in your journey to loving yourself better and becoming the best version of you that you can be. Knowing yourself on every level, all those parts of you, your body, your mind, your emotion, and harnessing that so that you can live as your true essence wants you to live, as you came here to live. Tevin, practice what you want to be. I like this. Practice makes perfect. Yes, Tevin, practice, practice, practice. And you know what? It's like I said last week as well. It's just shifting the mindset slightly to see it as a fun game because we might not get it right every single day, but it is a beautiful game. It's a beautiful game. And if we show up and we're practicing our best, we practice it to be our best and use our best mindset and be the best physical person that we can be in this life every day, then that is surely going to be good enough. Because it's a game, let's make it fun. Let's enjoy it. Especially self-developers, I think we can be so serious about ourselves sometimes because we do want to be a person full of integrity and accountability, and we want to live in service, and it's amazing. And sometimes that itself can trip us up because we forget to enjoy ourselves along the way. So yes, keep practicing. Juanita, check in with myself every day before meditation. Yes, awesome. Great, great idea. That's exactly the suggestion, is to check in. Um, Louise, love the magic wand analogy. Thank you, Louise. Yeah, it's a fun one. I just think I love magic and the whole concept of magic, and I really, really think we are our own magicians. And this life is really a beautiful, beautiful experience. And if we keep thinking of ourselves in that magical way, we can play and we can grow and we can expand into the truest version of who we are. So love yourselves today. Thank you so much for everyone who's joined me today. It's been amazing. And I will be back on Thursday where we'll be talking about that other body, the emotional body, which I'm really excited about. And yes, keep loving yourself. You are worth it. I will see you on Thursday. Ciao for now.